Hello, my name is Chloe, and this is the third time I've recorded this video today. The first time, my mic was off. The second time, my camera died without me realizing. The third time, we persevered. This is me going at it. So hopefully my energy is still with us because I feel like I'm dwindling. If you don't know anything about me, I love Letterboxd. Letterboxd is one of my favorite apps on the planet Earth, and I'll be sitting watching a movie, thinking about the review I'm about to make and the star review, and yeah, I'm just an addict. So I thought, how can I combine two things that I love? Percy Jackson and movies. Let's make a Letterboxd review list. I'm gonna go through, give a star review for what I think Percy would rate these movies, and keep in mind, I think these would all be his favorite movies, and yeah, let's get into it. Chloe from the future, I realized I didn't show you guys my sick shirt. The way I've decided to format this video is to say the movie, read the film description, and then say why I think this movie is on Percy's Letterboxd. This way, if you don't know the movie, you can know a little bit about it and aren't completely lost. The first movie I have is Kick-Ass. Using his love for comics as inspiration, teenager Dave decides to reinvent himself as a superhero. Despite a complete lack of special powers, Dave dons a costume dubbed himself Kick-Ass and gets to work fighting crime. He joins forces with the father/daughter vigilante team of Big Daddy and Hit Girl, then befriends another fledgling crime fighter called Red Mist, but a scheming mobster soon puts their alliance to the test. A big reason I think Percy would love Kick-Ass is because I think he'd be obsessed with superheroes. I'd also like to think if all these monsters didn't start getting attracted to started following, that's not much better. I'd like to think that if Percy never found out he was the son of Poseidon, that he'd probably want to be a superhero, especially for this movie because it's just a huge spoof on the superhero genre in general. The plot of this movie is basically if you just put a bunch of real humans in this crime-fighting vigilante sense and what would actually happen. Because when we see in comic books and movies, that's not really that realistic. This movie kind of just like plays on that fact. I could just see Percy relating to Dave, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and him just having a great old time with it. Next, I think Percy would love musicals. I don't think he's a theater kid, but the movie musical genre, I think he'd eat it up. Specifically, Mamma Mia. Donna, an independent hoteler in the Greek islands, is preparing for her daughter's wedding with the help of two old friends. Meanwhile, Sophie, the spirited bride, has a plan. She secretly invites three men from her mother's past in hope of meeting her real father and having him escort her down the aisle on her big day. I'm imagining Percy getting introduced to Greek mythology in this world of ancient Greece and just kind of falling in love with it. Once Percy's no longer fighting all these great gods and monsters and such, I think he'd love the idea of settling down in a small town of Greece with Annabeth and them living out their future in this beautiful, beautiful location. And I think that aspect of Mamma Mia would be like so alluring to him. I think he'd also love the plot of Mamma Mia. I think he'd think it's crazy and chaotic, especially if he went into it originally blind and he's like, what is going on? I feel like he'd be sitting there with his popcorn trying to guess who the father is. You would think that the three dads breaking out into song and would be hysterical. Yeah, he'd just have a blast with it. I might be being influenced by Walker Scobell, but I think Percy would also love Deadpool. Wade Wilson is a former Special Forces operative who works as a mercenary. His world comes crashing down when evil scientist Ajax tortures, defigures, and transforms him into Deadpool. The rogue experiment leaves Deadpool with accelerated healing powers and a twisted sense of humor. With help with mutants and Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Deadpool uses his new skills to hunt down the man who nearly destroyed his life. I think he would find this movie to be just a hoot. If Percy is anything, he's hilarious. He's very funny, he's very witty, and I think he would appreciate the humor in this movie more than anything else. I'm just imagining him living with Annabeth and him putting it on all the time and her just being exhausted by it, rolling her eyes as he just giggles on the couch, and yeah, I think she would hate this movie. In my mind, Percy watched this movie at a similar time to Walker when he was just much, much younger, and I'm just imagining Sally walking into their small shoebox apartment, throwing off her jacket, falling onto the couch next to Percy, watching what he's watching, and then for a second be like, wait, my son shouldn't be watching this, and like panicking and then turning on Disney Channel or I don't know. Then she's like, let's play a game, and I don't know, I just think that's funny. Another musical I think Percy would like in addition to Mamma Mia is High School Musical 2. It's summer break and the kids of East High are out for some fun in the sun. Unfortunately, they are all broke and must get jobs in order to be able to afford to enjoy themselves. Troy thinks his problem is solved when he gets a job at Sharpay's family resort, but doesn't realize she has an ulterior motive for hiring him. Luckily, some of his fellow Wildcats have jobs there too. Let me set the scene for you. Annabeth watched this movie. Loved it. She thought it was so cute, a jock falling for a nerdy girl, related to it a little bit. She shows it to Percy. Percy loves it. Instantly is like, let's watch the second one. And while Percy's sitting there grooving to all the music, loving Troy and Gabriella, thinking their dynamic is perfect, almost on the verge of tears when Gotta Go My Own Way starts playing, and also relating to Troy when he has an absolute crash out song right after, and Percy's like, that's going on my battle playlist. Annabeth secretly fuming next to her because I'm imagining this is after Battle of the Labyrinth and she's just getting graphic war flashbacks to Rachel being like Sharpay in her life. And I'm not saying Rachel's like Sharpay at all, but just like that essence of it. And I just think that's hilarious. And then they get back together at the end of the movie and they both love it. And it's just a really sweet movie night for them. And yes. Percy's next Letterboxd movie for me is Bullet Train. Ladybug is an unlucky assassin who's determined to do his job peacefully after too many gigs has gone off the rails. Fate, however, may have other plans as his latest mission puts him on a collision course with lethal adversaries from around the globe. All disconnected yet conflicting objectives on the world's fastest train. Not only is Logan Lerman in this movie, I just think Percy's a sucker for an action movie.
Seem like a Percy. Young, sweet, no order.
This movie is riddled with amazing actors, witty dialogue, and just a crazy interweaving plot. Personally, I think this would be Percy's Pulp Fiction, and I stand by that. Alright, my next movie is Dolphin Tale. While swimming free in the ocean, a young dolphin gets caught in a trap and severely damages her tail. Though she is rescued and transported to Clearwater Marine Hospital, her tail cannot be saved. Prognosis is dire. What the dolphin, now named Winter, needs is a miracle. She gets the miracle in the form of a marine biologist, prosthetic designer, and a devoted boy who find a way to help Winter swim again. In a very, very different vein to Deadpool, I think Percy watched this movie when he was very, very young. I think this is probably one of the first movies that he can connect back in his mind to loving the ocean, specifically before he found out he was the son of Poseidon. And I think he would just relate to the boy a lot and his love for sea creatures, and he'd find the story so impactful, and I just think this would be just like a comfort movie for him. My next Letterboxd pick is Across the Spider-Verse, not Into, Across. If you don't know, Across is the second movie. After reuniting with Gwen Stacy, Brooklyn's full-time friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is catapulted across the multiverse, where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. However, when the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles finds himself pitted against the other spiders. He must soon refine what is meant to be a hero so he can save the people he loves most. As previously stated, I think Percy would be a huge superhero fan, specifically Spider-Man, and I think he would just relate to the character of Spider-Man a lot, specifically Miles' version of it. I think this movie is all about fighting the hierarchy, and Percy Jackson isn't supposed to exist. The kids of the big three were supposed to be no longer existent, and Miles in the movie isn't supposed to be Spider-Man. It's a whole anomaly that happens, and I think the thing is just this weird connection with it. Because Miles is constantly being told let things happen naturally, and like it's the same way of like Percy with the prophecies.
Keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. I'm gonna do my own thing.
He needed to hear that sometimes youth is not ignorance and that he can be powerful and that it doesn't matter what the gods tell him. And yeah, I think he would just love this movie, let alone the animation and the humor and just all the Spider-Men, and yeah. This next pick is the film that inspired this entire video. I was sitting there watching it for the first time and thinking, this is the most Percy Jackson coded movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And that is Hot Rod. For Rod Kimball, performing stunts in a way of life, even though he is rather accident prone, poor Rod cannot even get any respect from his stepfather Frank, who beats him in a weekly sparring matches. When Frank falls ill, Rod devises his most outrageous stunt yet to raise money for Frank's operation, and then Rod will kick Frank's butt. If we're talking about movies, we have to talk about actors. Andy Samberg is the lead in this. And I personally think Andy Samberg would be one of Percy's favorite actors. He's chaotic, he's crazy, he's funny. Percy would probably love Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well. And I can just imagine Percy watching this movie, seeing Andy make all these jokes, and him just full belly laughing, grabbing the person next to him, very Chris Evans style, and just having a blast. However, I think the biggest thing that made me think of Percy while watching this movie is the relationship between Andy's character and his stepfather, and the fact that he is raising all this money just so he can literally beat the living shit out of his stepdad, let me clarify. I just think that is exactly what Percy Jackson would do. If Gabe was still alive after the events of the Lightning Thief and Percy now just has this new sense of worth, he has these powers, you just know for a fact that Percy's showing no mercy. Ruthlessness, mercy upon ourselves. Next Letterboxd movie I have is 50 First Dates. Playboy vet Henry sets his heart on romancing Lucy, but she has short-term memory loss. She cannot remember anything that happened the day before. So every morning, Henry has to woo her again. Her friends and family are very protective, and Henry must convince that he is in it for love. I would bet my life on the fact that Percy Jackson is secretly a hopeless romantic, and I stand by that. I could just see Percy loving this movie. He would think it's so romantic, along with Adam Sandler being hilarious. I think he would get that small town vibe, and I feel like that's everything he ever wished for. I could see Percy himself doing this for Annabeth. The setting of the island, the theme of doing anything for love, just loving this movie. I think you'd think it's beautiful in a way. I don't know. Next movie I have is Ponyo. During a forbidden excursion to see the surface world, a goldfish princess encounters a human boy named Soku, who gives her the name Ponyo. Ponyo longs to become a human, and as her friendship with Soku grows, she becomes more human-like. Ponyo's father brings her back to their ocean kingdom, but so strong is Ponyo's wish to live on the surface that she breaks free, and in the process spills a collection of magical elixirs that endanger Soku's village. When creating this list, I was between two movies, Ponyo and Little Mermaid. I decided on Ponyo because I think Percy would enjoy, one, the animation more, the sense of adventure, and the overalling vibes of friendship. I also think he just loved the water life in this. It's just so beautiful, and the fact that Ponyo is one of like 100 siblings, that her parents are these like two godly, magical creatures. In my own experience, this movie also just stuck with me more than Little Mermaid, and I think it'd be the same for Percy. Alright, second to last one, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Ferris Bueller has an uncanny skill at cutting class and getting away with it. Intending to make one last duck out before graduation, Ferris calls in sick, borrows a Ferrari, and embarks on a one-day journey through the streets of Chicago. On Ferris's trail is the high school principal Rooney, who is determined to catch him in the act. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is just a classic, and I could just see Percy being obsessed with this old-time, fun, antic vibe. On a more depressing note, I could just see Percy being like, this is what my life could have been like. If I never found out I was a demigod, this could have been my high school experience. So I think this movie would be a comfort to him in a weird what-if way, like what if my life wasn't what it was, and yeah, plus it's just like a really great movie, and I think Percy would enjoy it otherwise. Alright, my last Letterboxd pick. Pirates of the Caribbean series. Captain Jack Sparrow arrives at Port Royal in the Caribbean without a ship or crew. His timing is inopportune, however, because later that evening, the town is besieged by a pirate ship. The pirates kidnap the governor's daughter, Elizabeth, who is in possession of a valuable coin that is linked to the curse that has transformed the pirates into the undead. A galleon blacksmith is in love with Elizabeth, allies with Sparrow in pursuits of the pirates. I know I added a lot of ocean-themed things, but I just think this one would stick with Percy the most. I think if he wants this feeling of being near the water and such, he would watch this movie. I think he'd love the adventure elements of it. I think he would love all the pirate life. I think it'd even remind him of his time on Sea of Monsters with Annabeth when they were on the ship, and also his time with the Seven when the Seven became the Seven in Mark of Athena. I think it would just have some bittersweet elements to it, but also just like really fun and cathartic type of way. And yeah, I mean, it's a pirate adventure. You really think Percy's not gonna like that? Alright, that was the end of my Percy Jackson Letterboxd list. I hope you had a wicked good time, and if you like these, I have an Annabeth and Grover one in the vault. So definitely send this video a like or a comment if you're interested in that, and actually comment what you guys think Percy Jackson's favorite movies would be. But anywho, have a good night. Toodles!